save time, make more money, and be a happier small business owner, operator, and leader by doing exactly what I teach you in this delegation masterclass. We're going to teach you how to go from overworked, overwhelmed, and stuck in the daily grind of your business to a strategic leader who can confidently delegate the right way, who can empower your team and scale your business with freedom and control. Here's what we're trying to do. We're trying to move you from the people on the left, which is just a hot mess, to the people on the right, which are productive, they're happy, and they're scaling their business like clockwork. Delegation. What is it? It is the most rewarding, frustrating, and awesome part of running your business. And we're going to teach you how to do that right now. Here's the plan. What is delegation? What isn't delegation? Why should we delegate? When don't some leaders delegate? And why don't they delegate? When should we delegate? What should we delegate? All the FAQs of delegation are going to be right here in this masterclass. They're going to be clear, they're going to be concise, and it's going to get to you as tactical as possible so you can operationalize delegation and start leading effectively. Let's kick right in and say, what is delegation? So the definition in simple terms is the strategic process of transferring responsibility and authority to someone else while, and this is the key here, while maintaining accountability for that outcome. So here's a simple analogy to break it down for you. It's like holding a rope, okay? If you grip it too tight, then you become the bottleneck, okay? If you let go completely, and you and your team are both going to fall, right? What's the key? The key is to loosen your grip and to lengthen the rope just enough, right? With guide, to be the guide, to help support, and to trust your team to climb, right? While staying connected and accountable. A great example of this is parenting, right? The rope starts very, very short and very, very taut, okay? But over time, as you develop trust in their character and trust in their competence, you can start to lengthen the rope just a little bit. That's what delegation is. It's the exact same thing in your business and in your operations and with you as a leader in your team, okay? You start with the rope nice and short and taut, and as you develop the trust, which we're going to go over, as you develop the trust in their character and in their competency, that rope can start to get longer and longer, but you don't let go of the rope and you don't let a ton of slack in the rope, okay? And we're going to break down each and every piece of that for you. What is not delegation? Okay? Delegation is not a blind handoff. Hey, Bobby or Susie, make sure to go handle XYZ task. And then I don't ask about it until I know it's screwed up, and then I start yelling at them. No, that is not delegation. Delegation is not micromanagement. Okay, good delegation with accountability is not micromanagement. Micromanagement is me walking around right behind you all day, every day, peeking over your shoulder and correcting every little tiny thing that you do that you're not doing like I would do it, right? And I'm just picking at every tiny thing all day long. That's not it. That's not delegation. Another thing that is not delegation is just task assignment. Hey, take the trash out, right? That is not true delegation. We're going to walk you through a process called primary outcome areas, right? We're going to go through a training process to help people become more productive, and so that we can develop trust in their character and trust in their competency so that we can lengthen the rope over time, but still hold on to the rope to keep them accountable. Why should a leader delegate? Why should you delegate? Well, let's talk about it. There's a handful of benefits here that save us a whole bunch of time, save us a whole bunch of money, help us to make more money, empower our team, grow our business, help us to lead and work on our business more strategically. The first one's time. It helps us to leverage time. You, as the owner operator of your business, you should be focused on growth, not these little tiny repetitive tasks. Okay. The second one is to scale the business. The company is only going to grow if the tasks and the roles are distributed effectively. All right. And then thirdly, it develops your team, right? It empowers your team members, your employees, to build confidence, and it helps to create leaders, right? Leaders develop leaders. That's what you are. That's what you need to develop. Number 4 is it avoids burnout, right? It takes away the bottleneck and the pressure that's on the president or the CEO, the owner or operator, right? If you're trying to do everything, you're eventually going to burn out, or you're just going to cap your growth. One of the two. You don't really want either one. Here's an example: is one of my HVAC companies. They've been a long time client of mine. The owner basically finally let go of field operations. Now, by let go, we walked through this exact delegation process. We started with the rope nice and short and taut, lengthened it over time, right? And then they were eventually able to get out of the field operations so that they could focus on the sales, so that they could work on leading to that revenue jump. It actually took them from 800 to over one, almost to 1.5 million, which was an amazing story. All right, let's talk about why don't some leaders actually delegate? Well, leaders do delegate. Bosses micromanage, okay? Here's the difference. Leaders pull, bosses push. Okay, leaders create opportunities for team members to come alongside and to play a role as part of the bigger vision and mission. All right, bosses kind of, what they do is they basically create frustration and a lot of times confusion when they're forcing team members toward a goal that is completely unclear because they haven't shared the direction of the company, the mission of the company. They don't know the role clarity. There's no accountability in place. There's no communication platform or communication rhythm in place, a lot of other things. And there's one more little caveat to that. Some leaders, and this is kind of an oxymoron here, if you're not delegating, it might be a smart idea because you don't have anyone on your team that you trust their competence and character in order to delegate that task or that concept to, like a leadership, right? Which means essentially you hired a bunch of donkeys that you shouldn't have hired when you should hire thoroughbreds. We'll talk about that a little bit later, right? But if you're not delegating, it might be the right decision if you don't have anyone on your team or your staff that you trust with their character and you trust their competence when it comes to that task or that concept. So here's some other reasons why leaders don't delegate. And this might hurt a little bit, to be honest with you, but I'm here, I'm dropping truth. This is what you need to help you grow, right? They have a fear of losing control, right? The saying would be, no one does it as well as I do. They lack trust. Like I was talking about with the trust of character and competence. Basically, they don't think their team is capable, which usually means they just don't want to train them. Another one, short-term pain versus long-term gain. It's faster if I just do it myself. That's not how we develop leaders. That's not how we grow a business, right? Another one, perfectionism. If it's not done perfectly, it's a failure. There's going to be growing pains throughout the training and productivity process. The lack of the system or the process. They don't have a playbook. It's all just in their head. It's like delegation without structure is going to 100% of the time lead to chaos. And then also you hired the wrong people. Like you hired donkeys instead of thoroughbreds. So they're untrainable and you don't trust their character. You don't trust their competence and they are not coachable. And you haven't properly trained your team because you don't know how to train somebody, right? You're an owner or operator who's really good at their skill or their trade. You're not a teacher. You're not a trainer, right? You need to learn that concept. Even great people are going to fail without the guidance. And then also the last one is maybe you're a control freak and you have that mentality. And basically you're holding on to everything, which slows down everything, slows down the business as a whole. So that's why some leaders don't delegate. So let's talk about when should a leader delegate. Okay, so when you see a team member, when you experience a team member, when you feel, when they've proven it to you, there's observation, there's data points. When a team member consistently demonstrates these two qualities, you can trust them enough to delegate to them. So the first one is their character, right? We're talking integrity. We're talking core values. We're talking the character that you see in someone that you trust them. And I like to say, depending on, right, what we're talking about in the task or the concept, but do I trust them with my wife and my wallet? Essentially, that's what I'm looking for. That's how I approach the character concept in my business, right? Now, you can choose on your core values on that, but when it comes to me judging and evaluating the character of my team, I say, can I trust them with my wife and my wallet and my kids? If that's the case, I trust their character to and through. The next thing is their competency. Okay, do I trust that they are competent enough okay, to learn this task or skill, or they're already know that task or skill. So the competency of the skill in relation to the task or the concept, like leadership. And then I would say if there's a third one here, and it kind of is a mixture of character and competency, and that's coachability. Are they willing to learn and put effort forth and fail and continue learning and to be trained? Right. So these are the qualities that we're looking for. We have to trust in these character, competency, and coachability qualities in order to actually delegate to them. Otherwise, it will just be a smoke show. It'll be a blindside. We'll be micromanaging them, and we'll just be handing tasks off that don't really help us or the business or empower or develop any leaders. So let's talk about what should a leader delegate. I'm going to give you a process here. This is where you want to come back to me, get your pen out, take a screenshot right here. This is what a leader should delegate. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you want to do a time and task audit for one simple week, right? So you just print out a thing that has each day and every hour of the day, probably broken down into 15 or 30, 20-minute increments. And all you do is for every day, all day, and you can do this as simple as just writing down the notes on your phone. You label each task that you're doing. So write it down and for how long you did it, and then you put it in one of these 4 categories, okay? First category is important. You're good at it and you love it, okay? Put an I next to that one. And then for the other tasks that are less important, you're good at them, but you don't love them, okay? Put the L in front of that one. And then time waster is you're bad at it, but you like doing it, okay? Like I'm horrible at drawing pictures, but I love doing it because I like sketching little frameworks and visuals of things. Okay, so put a T next to those and then put the H next to hate it, as in you're bad at it and you hate it and don't like it. So I, L, T, or H after each day where you've written down every task that you're doing and for how long you're doing, you go back and you just label each and every single task with an I, an L, a T, or an H. Here's your super secret ninja hack at the end of the week. The tasks that you should delegate, okay, as the owner operator of your small service business are in your time waster, so the T, and the hated categories, okay? Those are where the tasks and the concepts lie that you need to delegate. The time waster and the hated categories, and you will find magic right then and there. Okay, so we've decided what should we delegate. Okay, and then within that list of time waster and hated categories, pick like your top 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Right? I just start with 1 and make sure that it's impactful. So, what's the most impactful thing in your time waster and hated categories that you can delegate? Hey, before we move along, I want to just give you a gift. So, we're talking about delegation here. One of the best ways to hold people accountable and to ensure clear communication are having the right meetings. Right. So this is a gift just for you. The 4 meetings that you need to grow a service company and to become a better leader. Go to MaynerLeadership.com/4 meetings. You can download that now. It's like a 20-something PDF. It's got the agendas. It's got what meetings you need to have, who they should be with, how often they should be with them. It's got all the templates, all the swipe files, everything you need to know in order to have an amazing meeting rhythm and communication rhythm that holds your team accountable, that saves you time, makes your entire business more productive. Think about meetings that make you money. That's what I'm trying to give you right now. Go to MaynerLeadership.com/4 meetings to get that right now. So let's talk about how to delegate. So essentially, we have a 5-step process here. So we've identified the task to delegate. Okay. After we've done that, which is in that time waster and hate it categories. If you're not, go back, rewind this, take a screenshot. So we've identified the task. Now what we need to do is take the task and write a primary outcome area worksheet for that task or that role. So that's what the heck is a POA worksheet, primary outcome area worksheet. Here's what it really comes down to is within that task or that role, we write down what are the key results that we want to get, anywhere from 1 to 3 key result responsibilities for this task or this role. And then for each key result that we need them to get, we write down a couple of things. The first one is, what does winning look like for this key result responsibility? And then just articulate that out, 2 or 3 bullet points, keep it simple, clear, and concise. And then after we have the key result responsibility, we have what that key result responsibility, what winning looks like within it. Then we go one step further and we say, what is it going to take specifically to win and make sure that we're doing the specific things so that we win with this key result responsibility. So it kind of tapers down. So key result / responsibility, what does winning look like for that key result? And then what is it going to take to win specifically for that? That's a primary outcome area worksheet for that task or that role. So you want to write one of those, and it's just like a half pager or one pager. It's simple, it's clear, it's concise. Depends on, is it one task or is it a whole role that we're looking at delegating, okay? So we've identified the task or the role. We've now written a primary outcome area worksheet of what's the key result responsibility, what does winning look like, and what's it going to take to win. Now we need to identify the ready team member best suited for that task. So this goes back to who on our team has the capacity for one. Okay, so we need to look at what is all under their umbrella. And then, so if they have the capacity, now do we trust? Now we need to look at trust. Do we trust their character? Do we trust their competency? And do we trust both of those combined is coachability in that? Okay, so if we can identify those things, now we have the person, now we have the task, and now we have the expectation around that POA worksheet. Now what do we need to do? We need to train that team member. Okay, so we communicate the expectation. We go over the primary outcome area. We tell them the training process, okay, which you want to basically do. They need to see in the simplest form, they need to watch you do it, and then you need to talk about it. And then you need to do it together, and then you need to talk about it, okay? And then they need to do it, and you need to watch them, and then you need to talk about it. And then you need to continue that process of they do it, you watch, and talk about it. Now, when I say talk about it, what I mean is run a debrief. So after each kind of process, after each repetition of that task or that role, we run a debrief, meaning what went good and why, what went bad and why, what did I learn and why, and then what am I going to do different next time and why. That's how we train the team member. And we want to approach the training like this, okay? And Nick Saban said it best. Don't do it until they get it right. Do it until they can't get it wrong. And continue training and breaking that task down and that role down into very elementary pieces, okay? And flesh those out and train on those specific hard skills, like how to work the screwdriver, and then the soft skills like how to communicate and how to lead. Break it down and make lots and lots and lots of repetitions on that, okay? Like do way more training, way more often than you think. The best form of training is one-on-one, in person, right? Or Zoom, if that's the best you can do because you're a remote worker. And 20 minutes at a time, focusing on one, either hard skill or soft skill with a debrief, okay? And you want to be thinking about learning styles too. I think we'll do an entire video about training, but that's you walk through the entire training process. That's number 4. And then number 5 now is that you have the rope that's nice and short and it's taut. Now you slowly lengthen the rope as they build more trust and they're successful in that task or that role, and you talk about it. So you're never letting go of that rope. You're always keeping it taut, right? And both people are holding on to it, but you're lengthening it as they succeed and you meet and hold accountable, right? So accountability is expectation plus measurement times reinforcement. So you've now laid out the expectation. You're measuring it regularly on how successful they are. And if they're failing, then are they learning from their failures and progressing? Now you're reinforcing it with regular meetings, regular trainings, and then honing in on the productivity of efficiency, fast, effectiveness, good to make that better and better. And that's the more they do it right, and the more you hold them accountable and measure them and reinforce it, the longer that rope gets, right? And the longer that rope gets, you never let go. It's always taut, not super tight and not super slack, but it's always taut. Okay, that's your rope analogy. And that's where your accountability comes in. Now the rope is nice and long. It's taut. You're both holding on to it. You're meeting regularly, and maybe those meetings are getting a little more lengthy in between. There's a bigger gap, but the accountability is still there because what you focus on is going to improve, and what you hold accountable to, you're going to be developing that leader. So that is how to delegate. Let's talk about a couple different levels of delegation. Okay. And there's a secret ninja hack here is we're focusing on the stewardship part. So there's a gopher level of delegation, which is very like take the trash out. Okay. That's like, you're the gopher, go get me the screwdriver, go get me the vacuum. Hey, go take care of that paperwork, that kind of thing. And then there's like stewardship, where they're taking ownership of that task or concept or role. That's where leaders are developing leaders. That's when delegation is done really well. Now, you can delegate a simple task. It's just gopher level delegation. It's not going to empower that person. You got to work harder to connect those dots. What you want to work on is more and more stewardship delegation, because that's also going to free up your brain, okay, in order to work strategically on growing the company. So those are the two levels of delegation. Now, how do you hold people accountable after delegation? So I just hit it on it, but let's dig into it here for a second. Accountability equals expectations plus measurement times reinforcement, okay? So a couple ideas here is the expectation, which is you've identified the task or the role, you've identified the person, you've laid out the primary outcome area worksheet, and you've trained the person. Those are all part of the expectation, okay? Plus measurement. Now we're talking about the rope. It's short and tight. Now, how do we lengthen it? We have to measure how successful they are. And with each success, we can lengthen the rope a little bit. Okay. So we need a measurement piece. Is it a KPI? Is it a number? They're probably regular meetings to measure progress. Is it a traffic light? Red, yellow, green. Okay. But there has to be a measurement piece. With each success, we lengthen the rope a little bit. Now, times reinforcement. So we multiply reinforcement. What does reinforcement mean? It means to reinforce the good, praise it, and correct the bad, meaning constructive feedback and more training and reteaching. Okay. And reinforcement, it looks like the form of meetings. It looks like leaderboards. It looks like the red, yellow, green, and lots of greens for good. And then the yellows and reds get the corrective feedback and constructive criticism and the correction on how to do it right. And then all of these things help you feel confident in your delegation, in your leadership, and in your accountability. Couple of things to end with here. One is that you have to give them the authority. Okay. You set where the authority is. Hey, within starting here and ending here, you have the authority to make decisions and solve problems, right? And then be a coach, like coach them up and make sure that you're asking the right questions. You're believing in them. You're challenging them to get better. You're continuing to inform, update, and clarify the expectation. You're measuring them. They can self-assess. They know if they're doing a good job or not. You're measuring them. You're evaluating them. You're coaching them by your reinforcement of the good. Any good behaviors you see and good success you see, you're reinforcing that, right? And praising that. And then you're correcting and giving constructive feedback around the bad or the incorrect or the failures, right? So you're being a coach and you're growing this person. You're developing this person. And that's how to hold people accountable after delegation, right? So how do we apply this into our leadership and into our business? Well, number one is let's just start small. Identify that one task, identify that POA and write that out, identify that one person for that task this week, and then build that delegation into the core of your leadership DNA within your business, right? Make it a habit. Okay. Make identifying the task and make identifying the POA and fleshing that out and identifying the person and laying out the expectation, right? And then measuring it and then holding people accountable to that with that reinforcement. Make it a habit. Use these systems of standard operating procedures, playbooks. You can use management tools like Trello or Asana or Basecamp. You want to develop leaders, not just worker bees. Okay. Encourage problem solving and decision-making skills in your team. You're giving them those boundaries of authority that they can operate within to solve problems and make decisions and help to grow your team, grow your company, and serve your clients better. That's how to apply delegation into your leadership and into your business. Hey, if you like this video, it was all about delegation. It was a delegation masterclass, everything you need to know to delegate efficiently and effectively. Hit subscribe to our YouTube video where we come out with one of these every other week. Like it, leave a comment. Hey, I learned a lot about delegation. I got a question. If you have any questions about delegation, put them below. We'll make a video for it. and then make sure you hit that notify button, hit the bell so you get notified every single time a brand new video drops. We appreciate you. Have a powerful day and stay after it, Playmakers.